Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, where we are here today and we are going to be talking about a very interesting subject that's been going, um, that is coming up to my mind after I just finished the symposium for metabolic health for 4 days in San Diego. It was absolutely awesome. It talked a lot about eating a ketogenic diet and eating low carb and was really wonderful. Lots of great speakers. But anyway, the subject that it brought up for me and that made it very clear to myself was regarding fear and how I have a lot of fear over being my best self, over like just pulling out all the stops, waiting until everything's perfect or right to get something done, or having a lot of self doubt and a lot of self talk in my head. And before we were recording, I was talking to Mike and I said, I feel like I have so many things in my head that goes on revolving trauma and involving addiction and things that fill up my head with space. I mean, fill up my mind, the space in my mind with all of this stuff that gets in the way. And then it makes it very hard for me to be concise and to be straight and to think in a straight line and to overcome fear. And so that is what we wanted to talk about today. And I guess it's been going on in Mike's life with some people that he's been working with and with some things that have been happening with him. So what's been going on with you?
You're getting out of that easy. You're going first. No way.
I did just go.
That was a good move. That was a good move. You got you there it was. You just deflected it. That was like, there's the behavior. Holy cow. That was good. Like, I don't know if that was conscious or unconscious.
No, it just happened. I think it happens in my life like that all the time. I think I just deflect and I just, I look good, right? I mean, I was walking into operating rooms as the surgeon, right?
Right.
And always having this low level of, doubt or low level of, almost like surprise, almost like, wow, the world's going to actually let me be here and do these things,
Right.
And it didn't really have to do with competency. It had to do with how I felt about myself. Yeah, just always knowing that there's somebody out there that's better, or there's somebody out there that can do it more efficiently, or there's somebody out there that people are going to like better, or so you have to always be like on the lookout. You have to always be paying attention to what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're looking, instead of just letting it rip and be yourself and not worrying about whether you're perfect, or whether or not you're doing it right, or whether or not you're going to be accepted, those kinds of things. And that's where I think I kind of live, in that area, and it's very energy consuming and not fun. It's not fun.
Wow. I love it. No, I understand it completely. I mean, I really do. It's a low level, always there kind of thing, where you're always kind of thinking about it. I was telling you the story of, before you do, I do want to know how it's manifesting right now, though. When you were at the conference, when you were like, what brought it up? Where'd you first notice it? And where is it playing out right now in your life?
Okay. So there was somebody there at the conference who is an amazing doctor and person and speaker, and she works locally in San Diego. And I was comparing myself to her,
Okay.
and just a brilliant person, probably genius level. I mean, just this incredible person, and feeling very inadequate, but yet attracted to that, because you know how like you kind of end up weighing the same as the people you hang out with. And you kind of, like, I'm really trying to surround myself with quality people who can have quality relationships. And so I was attracted to her and wanting to potentially do something in the future with her, in a collegial kind of way or something around metabolic health. And so when I went to approach her, I wanted to ask her a question about her clinics or something. And then there was something else I wanted to ask her about, because I'm actually going to be training up to be a metabolic health practitioner. And she went through that. So I wanted to ask her how it was, how much it cost and things like that. But when I got up to her and was chatting with her, and she's quite a bit taller than me, so I was looking up to her, I brought up the first subject, but I couldn't even remember to bring up the discussion about the symposium training because
Mm.
I was just dumbfounded, like in her presence. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, I just like went blank and I couldn't even remember what I was trying to say. And so as I walked away, I'm like, well, I said, I forgot what I was going to ask you. And so then as I walked away, I remembered, and then I went back and asked her, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But yet that's the kind of stuff that in the past I would eat over.
Mm. Mhm.
I'd be like, how can you not remember this? How do you get so kerfuffled around this person just to ask her a basic question? And she's very nice and very approachable and gives you these very succinct, perfect answers. And so that happened. And so it got me kind of thinking about, who I am. And you go to these conferences and they're so motivating. Like you walk out of there thinking, gosh, I'm never going to eat off plan again. And then I did. I went home and I ate off plan. So I just pray that this was my last eating off plan because I really do feel motivated. And, I'm going to eat off plan, but it was a little more than just calling it eat off plan. It was like maybe a mini binge.
Mm.
But and then I don't know why I do that behavior. Like, do I just do that so that I can just keep substantiating and, why I am the way I am and keep saying, okay, well, you're not worthy of like being out there and living this extraordinary life that you're capable of because you just are too afraid to do it.
So I don't even know where to start. I really don't, because I feel the exact same way. A lot of times I'm having this. The story I was going to tell you is that over the weekend, I actually attended a training for to be a sauna lead, a sauna and cold plunge leads at this place that I've kind of fallen in love with. It's a very nice community of yoga. They have yoga there and hot yoga and regular yoga. And you spend the protocol is you spend 15 minutes in an above 200-degree sauna with about 12 people, and they're leading you. In other words, they have breath work, they have gratitude practices, they have questions, different questions that you ask to try and get engagement and get to know one another, right? Very similar. I mean, I may be bringing some of this to our groups at the No Sugar Nation, because it really is rapid in these 3 days. I got to know these 12 people so amazingly quickly because, well, let me finish. In that, then you go 3 to 5 minutes in the cold plunge, which is water that's below 40 degrees, 38 to 40 degrees. And then you go back and you do the sauna again. So you do this rotation 3 times in an hour period. Okay. Over the weekend, because they were training all of us and we had to be the leads, I was in 6 of those, 2 a day. So 2 hours a day going through that process, and all the leads, all the leading, all the people telling us about you know, what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, how to lead, whatever. And then in practice, right? And the other people had to practice. And somehow in the middle of somehow I knew when I went to this place that the community has something to do with recovery some way or somehow, right? And one of the leaders, who's the general manager of one of their facilities, said, I've been sober for X amount of years. I just got sober in my 40s, whatever. And so I knew the founder is like a force of nature. Like, she's maybe describing the woman you're describing, you know what I mean? She's brilliant, got the mouth of a sailor, but doesn't care. Absolutely 100% is herself. Like, there's no pulling punches. There's no like care or worry about somebody else governing her or censoring her. She's going to do it the way she does it. But she's very genuine and very, loving, as far as, helping, wanting to help people. Was bringing up Margaret Mead about small bandit. She brought up something that I never knew about. I'm still trying to find the right word for it, but it's basically at 4% of the population. If you can get to a idea at 4% of the population, the idea will tip and get to the rest of the population. Just bringing in Margaret Mead. I mean, she was brilliant, right? Anyway, in the middle of it, the guy that I was talking about that was in recovery says a phrase that I'm sure I've seen 100 times, or thought about 100, but it just, maybe I was in the state of being loved by these groups. They were just a loving group of people who wanted the same types of things. to help people achieve their best self. And he goes, the courage to be seen. And I just freaking, it's what I've been struggling with. It's what you and I are going to go over in a few minutes here is like growing what's called today online as your personal brand, getting out, putting yourself out there with all the warts and all the, all of the scars and all of the bad complexions and bad hair. You're just putting yourself out there so that people know you, like you, trust you. And so, especially in the age of AI, when it comes to, engaging you as a coach or, buying a product, and I'm an INFJ, like less than 1% of the population. And males, it's even half of that, less than half of that. And so very introverted, and doing it has just always been seemed obtrusive to me, intrusive to me, and I just know I've known for months this is what I need to do. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm having little signs made up for the courage to be seen. And I've been going through this my whole life, genuinely. I find something that I love or something that I'm good at or something, and I wait and I sit back and I wait and I sit back. You can't do that. I mean, I can't do it anymore. I'm just going to put it on my side. I can't do it anymore because there are people selling what we sell, quote unquote, and it's all garbage. It's all to sell some shake or some pill or some weightlifting program or some weight loss program about sugar detox or sugar addiction, and it's garbage. It doesn't have anything to do with the reality of how, if someone truly wants to transform their eating and they want to stop using this substance, not that we're perfect. There's 5 or 10 other, well, maybe not. There's 4 or 5 other people in the world that do it the way we do it that I would recommend. But the other 100, 200, 300,000 maybe of people where you see the 5-day detox and the 10-day detox, it's all garbage. It's all, moderate this and this, that, and the other thing.
Hype.
So if I don't step out, a quality product or a quality process is going to get um, overrun by better marketing or better social media, whatever. So 110% agree with you. Just, you know, I, I think that it should be a wake up call for you because let me be the first. If somebody hasn't told you today, you can be a force of nature. You can change a lot of people and teaching them these processes of metabolic health and sugar reduction or sugar elimination.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I totally relate to what you're saying, and I do, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm at the stage right now where despite my fear or despite all of that doubt, or despite, my self-loathing that will even sometimes come in still, I'm out there trying to do it. Like I have this channel and I'm trying to push stuff out, and you know, I'm getting very close to getting my binges out of the way. And there's a lot that's going on with me, and I can see it, and that's the thing. Awareness is key. You got to be aware of what you're doing and where your fears are. And so
Right.
many people go through life like just on remote, on autopilot, and living in effect and not being willing to live at cause. And because it's easier, but it's a lot less fulfilling, and it doesn't keep you happy. And the other thing that I think is really important too is connection with others and relationship. And when you are out there, holding back and kind of hiding, like hiding in this body that I have, right? Like
Hmm.
there's this totally awesome, really healthy, really fit, energetic, Cammy that hides out in this
Mm.
body that I have and just kind of sits back and needs to take it slower and, needs naps because I get tired and, all of these things that go on. And so it feels to me like almost like it's frustrating. Like I go to the gym and I'm, educating myself and I'm trying to eat right. And I go to my addiction meetings and I reach out with others. I go walking. I do all these things to try to overcome, and really just just having the courage, like just overcoming the fear and having the courage is
I
what
froze
really,
up.
I mean, the reason, why would you want to do it? And I think that's just to live a happier, more fulfilling life and to be of service to others and to have a clearer purpose in your life, and to execute that purpose. I think a lot of us, deep down inside really want to have a purpose and want to help others.
Absolutely.
And then how do you do it? That's another whole topic. That's one of those brain to heart things, right? Like,
Mhm.
how do I eat right? I know exactly how to eat right, but to get it in my heart and to get it coming out, like almost like viscerally, like, through your body, like oozing out of your pores, kind of thing, against what society throws at us, right? Like when
Yeah.
you walk into the grocery store and there's just carbs everywhere, and what the commercials do, and when you do get some of that into your system, it hijacks your body and just takes over and creates
Yeah.
those chemical issues.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's biochemical for sure. I mean, what you're describing is what I'm living through and have lived through many times. It's this whole surgeon and, a little bit apprehensive kind of thing, even though you're competent, right? So, yeah, no, it's very interesting. I mean, I mean, there's a lot of personal development things that model it. Where getting out of your comfort zone and all that kind of stuff. But it's absolutely true. You do need to challenge yourself if this is. And one of the things you mentioned early on is like the worthiness piece, right? I think at the core of mine is like there's some reason, maybe some upbringing or same childhood wound or scar, and they were talking about ACEs over the weekend, the adverse childhood experiences. It's like there is some possible trauma wound that it has rewired your brain to be so guarded, so apprehensive to do not necessarily even newer things, but to be seen 100% by everyone and anyone. One of the things that I practiced over the weekend after I felt like that would be acceptable is I didn't do any of that. Where normally there's this kind of algebra that you're doing in your head. What do they want to hear? What should I say in this circumstance? Who am I in this at this party? Who am I at
Yep.
this gathering? You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're doing this quick algebra to make sure that you deliver what you think they want or what you think is appropriate in that moment to garner the most. It's partially, not partially, it's fawning is the name of it, but it's garnering this kind of false connection or this false keeping yourself safe, right? But I just let it out no matter what it was. I was myself 100%, took that risk there because it felt safe. There was only 12 people and
Yeah.
it felt safe. And that's why I think what you mentioned, community does for you. Like you don't want to hide. And if you do, it doesn't really do you much good. And you go deeper with people if you don't.
Exactly. And I think like our sugar addiction rooms where we have people in there that are like, minded and the same addiction to the sugar, I think those are very safe places where you feel safe, because we have some pretty good discussions in the meetings meetings that I run. And when you feel safe like that, you're able to just be yourself with a little bit more ease.
Yeah.
And the thing that also is so interesting is that I thought, well, I'm the only one that walks around like this. And like most of us, we all walk around like this. How many of us come from really beautiful upbringings where we had parents that loved each other, that were well adjusted, that had
Right.
emotional intelligence, and
Right.
that parented us at our eye level,
Yeah.
and how many of us grew up without aces,
This is so true. This is so
percent?
funny. We were talking about a client of ours, and we were having the same discussion about being seen, about a fear of being seen. And I said, "Is there anyone who had that parent that you're describing?" Like, no, like, no one gets out of that basically perfect, So everybody's got a little of it, and everybody's reacting in their own way, But I think that the main topic that you brought up is so important because there's an extension to feel. I think the feeling safe in community where you're safe is practice. 'Cause you definitely I couldn't definitely do it at my in my family of origin, it's just I couldn't do it.
Right.
I had to do the algebra. I had to figure out what was what. But
24/7 in your situation, you were
what's that?
constant. I said 24/7 in your situation, you were constantly, you had to be on guard because we're talking about survival here.
Yeah, we're talking about getting whacked, major pain.
Right.
But I think that the part that's scary, and that you experience it and I'm experiencing it now, is this out in the world with the advent of social media and personal brand and because like I said, with the advent of AI, no one's gonna know who's real and who's not. Genuinely, they're not gonna know like what person that they're talking, within 24, you're not gonna know if the person that's talking to you is even a person. Like they're almost there now, very close. And so building this trust by being yourself is mandatory at this juncture in the world. If you have an idea or a process or a healing modality that you want to get out to folks or a business or anything, it doesn't matter. I'm just, it's universal. But doing that, just doing it all the time seems daunting to me, like scary as hell.
Yeah, so what you maybe try to do is get yourself in situations where you feel safe
Yeah.
enough and comfortable enough to do it. And I'm really lucky because I have a lot of friends that I
Yeah.
can be that I can be myself with, and I will be loved and accepted. I mean, that's the other thing, you do it so that you get love and acceptance and
Right.
this fawning that you're talking about, and I think a lot of us run around when we're addicted to sugar or flour or other things, any addiction, which is most of us, that you don't love and accept yourself the way you are. And, everybody always has been telling me, just love and accept who you are as you are. But that's the challenge, right? And
Easier said
so
than done, right? Sometimes.
easier said than done. And so I think this idea that you brought up is so excellent about being seen, about, the courage to be seen.
Yeah.
I remember that I think his name was Bill Rancic. He was the guy that won the first Apprentice.
I
I
know
don't
who he
know.
was.
Yeah, I don't know if people will remember, the younger people might not remember, but our audience is generally a little bit older. And one day I was on the way to work and they had an interview on the radio and he was talking to them and somebody asked him, "Have you ever failed at anything?" And he was like, "Are you kidding me? I fail all the time," because he takes risks and he's out there living his authentic self. And then they said, "What was the worst time?" And it was something like that he did on national television in front of 14 million people and it was live.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that because I thought, gosh, even if, I can't even do it just in front of one person or, two or three or,
Right.
a couple hundred or whatever. 14 million people saw him, do something total screw up. And he's like, "Oh my God, I just screwed up." And, he went on to win The Apprentice. So you
When I
have
first
to,
started,
can't be afraid of failure.
even the Zoom, like when I first started, forget about interviewing the Robert Lustigs of the world and the Judy Collinses of the world and these big famous doctors. Just running a Zoom meeting was like different. Just being speaking at one was tough at the beginning, but then facilitating one and helping other people do the same thing. Right? It took a while. That's the reason I went to the live one, because I want to now do it in person. Right? And I want to build community in person. And I think it's important. Like all you women down at the Low Carb USA, you're together in person. You know what I mean? I mean, it's such a, I don't know. I mean, I think it's universal, the fear to be seen, but I definitely know it's the symptom of needed recovery for someone who's has an addictive recovery background or needs an addiction recovery of sorts of any kind.
And, being in that feeling, the feeling of connection and being in a community of like-minded people, like we were this whole weekend with me, it's so inviting and so warm and creates such joy and happiness in you. And people are losing that, especially the younger people. I feel like they don't know how to really connect on that deep level and have that type of joy and happiness.
Yeah.
Everything is so immediate and so social, on your phone. And yeah, so it's a lot of stuff. You have to overcome your fear. You have to get out there and fall on your face. And, like just when I walked away from, this presenter and I was like, oh my God, I didn't remember that. And I was like, oh, well, I'll either remember it or I won't. I remember thinking that. And I was like, I'll either remember what I was going to ask or I won't. And then right after that, I remembered. So I just turned around and went back and I'm like, oh, I remember what I was going to ask you because she was walking away. And I asked her real quick.
One of the things I should have warned you about is this is very real. They mentioned it at my event, and it was a little real yesterday. We're filming this on a Tuesday. So on a Monday, there is a real letdown, a post event letdown, almost depression. Like when you leave a group of
Oh.
people like that who all have the same mind, that metabolic health, like track or metabolic health belief system, and everybody makes, and everybody's very, kind, and they're wanting to get to know you, and there's no, you could just talk to anybody and you'll have something in common, kind of thing. There is a true letdown, you know what I mean? And that could have contributed to the, off plan stuff. So we have to warn people if they're going to go to these things that there's going to be a little bit of down, a dopamine down the day after, you know what I mean?
That's such a interesting thing that you bring up. I never even thought about that. And what would be helpful is maybe to have some Facebook somethings or, you know, almost like when you're at those conferences, have them say, hey, at the end, we're going to start this Facebook, stream, and you can kind of let yourself out slowly, right?
We
Instead of
started
just,
a WhatsApp group. Yes, that's absolutely right.
yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. Well, wow, we've brought up a lot of things to think about today.
Yes. Yes. It was wonderful. I mean, this whole courage to be seen thing, I think, is universal in addiction recovery in general. You know what? I don't want to get all platitude on you, but the opposite of addiction is connection. And it's the isolation that's the killer. Your world gets smaller, your life gets smaller, activities, everything shrinks into your addiction or whatever it is, And the living a big life, while intellectually we crave it, emotional maturity wise, we're just not ready for it to handle the things that come with it. And needs to be practiced. You need to keep reaching out, keep trying to get better. And I think it goes hand in hand with, you know, abstinence from the substance.
Right. And I think there's a need for that. I think there's a need to, live beyond your fears. And the thing is that when you wait, you tend to sit back and wait till you feel ready. And you can't do that because the way that you get ready is by going through life and falling on your face and being like, oh, look, I fell on my face. Well, gee, what did I learn about this? Oh, look, I learned this, and this. Okay, great. And then the next time you go, you fall on your face, but you don't fall on your face in that way because you learned all those things. And, then in between all those things, you have successes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're learning, and you realize that the things that you've manifested in your mind most of the time don't happen. And when they do, it's not a death sentence. It's just a set.
Right. You make it out to be this big, scary thing. And it's just like, oh, something little that you can't handle without any problem.
I mean, no exaggeration, like going to a first date, going to a new place where I basically know where it is and what the parking is, whatever, got that little bit of that. But when you're talking about something big, something like speaking in front of people or whatever, whatever your desire to do is, run for the PTA, whatever it is, it's big, and it lives in your body and shuts you down from, and where, like you said earlier, you normally would medicate that either before or after to get you through it or get you beyond it after you chicken out or did it badly or whatever. And you got to be able to live through that feeling first, and not use the substance. Get to know that the feeling won't kill you, that you'll make it through it, and do it again and do it again, do it again.
All right, everybody. So get out there, try to have some courage, try to fall on your face, make it a goal to fail and see what happens.
Fall
And
5 or 6 feet forward, fall on your face, get up, and you're 5 or 6 feet ahead.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate you being here and helping us grow and become a better version of our best self.
Nice. Very cool. Thank you.
All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you next time.